what we're starting to see is that the end game for many MedTech developers is to enter the US market.
It sounds like from a legal entity and visa and structure perspective, they definitely would need someone's guidance because it's not something you can easily navigate, it sounds like.
There's so many hoops and hurdles to US market entry.
Why is California such a dominant force still in the tech scene, even though there's all of this red tape?
So you're starting to see people migrate to other states, Florida and Texas, but the foundation of innovation is just so strong in California that I don't see it leaving anytime soon. If you are that entrepreneur or startup that's trying to get market to the US, could I go down to the legal rooms now and check boxes? Sure. But you're not getting the proper legal guidance. AI is a great tool, but it's not an legal expert.
Hi, welcome back to another episode of the Med Device Cyber Podcast. Today we have a guest, JJ Amell from Amell Law, coming to us from Texas. So we'll probably get a bill at the end of this episode because we are talking to a lawyer. So we'll see how much the bill is. Maybe not. We'll have to negotiate with him. So how's it going today, JJ?
It's going extremely well. A Merry Friday to you guys.
Yes, it is Friday. We're recording on a Friday. So this is an exciting topic. I think JJ is our first lawyer or attorney we've had, and he does work in MedTech. So it'd be fun to talk to him and pick his brain about some of the legal challenges people face in MedTech. We tend to see him at most of the MedTech World events. I think you're going to be at the one coming up not too long ago, or coming up here in Florida.
That's right.
And I think we saw you in Dubai recently. It was the last one, wasn't it?
That's correct. Yep. Back in February.
Awesome. And are you in Houston proper or like a suburb of Houston?
We're just outside Houston, and we're in an area called the Woodlands, northern suburban area of Houston.
I did one of my Ironman triathlons in the Woodlands and swam in that waterway that's like horrible. It's horrible water.
Yeah.
It's like really dirty, but and the roads were really bad. I remember that for the triathlon, but they just had it not too long ago.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And that's one of our big events here.
The Woodlands is beautiful though.
It is. It's extremely beautiful. I loved one of the reasons why I like being out here. I mean, I grew up in the area, but one of the reasons why I chose to be in the Woodlands is because of all the nature that's here and the beautiful parks. And that's very puts me in a place of serenity. And I like to be able to take a break from work, maybe even go to the park or just drive around. Having access to nature is important to me.
I agree. Melissa, my wife, wants us to move to Texas at some point. She's got family in League City, which is a little bit south, and Texas City, and she has a condo in Galveston. But I don't tell her this, but I prefer the Woodlands area better than Galveston. I don't like Galveston that much for some reason.
Yeah. Well,
she already knows that probably, but
yeah. Well, Galveston is another one of my getaway destinations. They have great Cajun food, but it's the beach that we have. And I grew up with access to Galveston, and that's one of the places that I love to recharge and get away. Even a day going to the beach is enough for me to kind of clear my head and get back to work. But the beach and nature, those are critical to like sustain my mental health. I'll put it that way.
I agree. Yeah. Awesome. So what kind of things do you mainly help medical device manufacturers with? I know there's like intellectual property. I know you've helped us with trademarks. There's like a number of things. I know intellectual property is a big deal. A lot of people want to protect their IP when they're coming up with a new innovation. But like, what are like the main, I guess, pain points you solve for MedTech innovators from a legal perspective?
Yeah, sure. So let me share a little bit of my background. I think that will kind of segue into like how I got into the med tech sector. So, I grew up in Houston, Texas. My father was a cardiologist. And when I was wrapping up law school, we were seeing a lot of, this is 20 some odd years ago, but we were seeing the proliferation of electronic medical records, electronic health records, and the digitization of the whole healthcare system. And I was a real computer geek. I mean, I love building computers, and my father was too. In fact, and he had a partner. He had 4 or 5 partners, and in a 38,000 square facility, and he built all the computers. And when this advent was coming, he said, we have to make a pivot or a shift in the way we practice. And he onboarded me to be the in-house counsel as well as project manager. And so I started to see a lot of these trends, and I started also working with service providers such as Boston Scientific, Medtronic, and I got to. I wouldn't say I was, I understood completely all the lexicon of the industry, medtech industry, but I felt comfortable talking with Boston Scientific, Medtronic on a regular basis. And then I pivoted myself, career change into wanting to do more traditional law. And so I eventually opened my own practice, and I got invited to MedTech World Malta a few years ago, and I started to see a gap in the industry, a legal gap, and I thought I could help be a facilitator and fill certain niches. And our law firm, our main drive, or the way we describe our law firm, is that we're U.S. market entry for medtech industries. What we're starting to see is that the end game for many medtech developers is to enter the U.S. market. So we can help facilitate and help build a team around that. Now, our law practice focuses on three service areas. The first is international corporate structuring. And what I mean by that is, you could have subsidiary or a principal office in Italy, but you are now ready to expand into the US market. So how do we get you there? What are the things that we need to consider? Is it opening a subsidiary? And even if we open a subsidiary, what kind of sophistication does the client need? Are we looking at holding companies, looking at operation companies, intellectual property companies, things of that nature, all depending on the sophistication of the client and meeting them where they're at. Some don't need that. Well, there are steps, right? There are levels to all that. Now, our second service area is business immigration, and I'm an advocate for talking about that at the beginning when talking about U.S. market entry. Many Much of the time, this is talked about as an afterthought. But the reason why I'm talking about it at the beginning is because we work with a lot of government agencies such as CBP, Customs and Border Patrol, US CIS, State Department, and they're on their own timeline. So I like to get ahead of the game, or ahead of the game, and start talking about and talking to the client, asking them, do you see yourself, Mr. Owner or founder, coming to the United States? Okay, what types of visas should we consider? Is it an investor's visa? Is it a founder's visa, like an O1? Are you going to bring over people who are engineers or quality control managers? That would be like an O1 type visa. So
Hmm.
this is where the business immigration comes into play. And then our third and last area is intellectual property. And our main focus there is, at least from Amell Law side, the Amell Law side, is trademarks. We also can handle
Hmm.
copyrights. For patents, we don't handle that, but we have lawyers that refer and that we work with to handle the patent side. So that's a general picture of Amell Law and how we assist medtech companies with U.S. market entry.
How different do you think it is coming towards the US market as opposed to doing the inverse, starting in the US and moving towards a European market? I know it's a popular model for a lot of companies since it's a lot easier to raise funds and get that initial market access here, but what does that inverse look like?
I know FDA compliance is a major issue, and we always try to work and find out where our client is in that stage. Because if they can't get FDA compliance, then there is no U.S. market entry. So we always try to find out with whom they're working with, and where they're at in that stage. Now we also assist with global mobility, helping clients go abroad. So we do have that aspect as well, Trevor. It is very different. The way and let me share more from the perspective of what I'm hearing from my clients. The main challenge is getting into the US. Okay. Once we get into the US, everything else seems to be much easier, whether going abroad. Now, Europe is a little more challenging from my understanding. I don't work with the regulation side of Europe, but I understand there are a lot of restrictions. So but you can't really get too far on well, let me put it this way. Having credibility in the U.S., having access to the U.S., having been vetted in the U.S. goes a long way abroad. Now, as I was sharing earlier, we do have a global mobility aspect, so we do help. We can help U.S. or even other citizens of different parts of the world go to other markets, and we have a team for that as well. So uh, that's our global mobility side of our practice.
It sounds like if I'm coming from Europe to the US, there's a lot of things I didn't think about. Like you mentioned, like an owner O1 visa, and if I bring a team over, so it sounds like from a legal entity and visa and structure perspective, they definitely would need someone's guidance because it's not something you can easily navigate. It sounds like.
Yeah, you definitely want a trusted team to work with you on your U.S. market entry. There's so many hoops and hurdles to U.S. market entry, and there's still things that we're learning that, uh, we're doing our due diligence, but there are things that we're still learning, Christian, on how best to prepare clients. Now, what I try to do is understand the immediate needs, midterm needs, so let's just say out 3 years, and then 5 and beyond, long-term needs. And I try to not have any surprises. Now, the area where I see surprises mostly coming up is on the tax and fiscal side. And I didn't really touch on this before, but when we onboard clients, we always have an international tax consultant with us. And
Mhm.
the service provider that we tend to like and work closely with is Russell Bedford International, and they have offices all over the world. They're headquartered in City of London, but we've worked with several other offices from Dubai, Qatar, here in the Woodlands, and we like that they're accessible everywhere, and that our clients, if you're in Dubai, you can reach out to the Dubai office, and we've already got some kind of working rapport. And so we're all talking the same language. But the thing about US market entry is that if I were just starting out and I'm exploring the US market entry, I want to be exploring the legal side as well as the fiscal and tax side, because there are severe repercussions for not addressing the fiscal or tax side. And many times people are
Mhm.
very, like, lawyers are very quick to say, "Oh, we can sell you this," but it's not the complete package, right? Like I can sell someone on a visa, but that doesn't complete the whole picture. And that goes back to your point. Yes, there are a lot of issues when entering the US market from someone who has never been in the market, and protecting them appropriately.
Is there a specific state, when people enter the U.S. market? I know there's like the federal rules, there's state governance. Is there a particular state that's typically easier to like enter the market in? Because Trevor's in California, and I know California has a lot of red tape. New York does, Illinois does, Texas may be a little more friendly for building a business. I'm just curious, like what is like from in the United States we know what it's like a little bit, but from someone from Europe trying to come to the United States, should they pick a specific state, one or the other, to establish themselves?
Yeah, great question. And let me first state that when you think about, or when a company from abroad is thinking about entering the US market, they're not looking at one market, really. You're really looking at 50 plus different market, because each state is a separate jurisdiction. In the
Right.
medtech world, what's most popular is Delaware, and mostly because of venture capitals. All right, and that's perfectly fine. Delaware is a gold standard for sure. What I'm seeing coming about right now is, and what I'm liking more and more, uh, where I like to form more corporations, is Texas. I think Texas is moving very aggressively to be very competitive to Delaware, and I think there are some case laws that are making it more attractive to setting up shop here. One, well, I the Delaware system has a special court for business disputes. Now, recent case law has it where minority shareholders can trump majority shareholder decisions. All right, and this is something that's becoming disattractive for setting up shop in Delaware. On the other hand, in
Right.
Texas, that rule does not exist. So majority shareholders maintain control of the corporations and decisions. So that is one of the reasons why I like Texas.
Well, that's the whole nature of the term majority, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
mean,
Right, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. Um, but we're starting to see more. I'm starting to see a bit of a shift of Texas becoming more attractive. I think still though that from an international medtech perspective, Delaware is still the standard. But when I sit with clients, I explain away why we like Texas. And once they have that understanding, a lot of times they move forward with Texas. Now, there are other states that are attractive. Wyoming is certainly is an attractive state. They
mhm,
have a number of benefits, especially if you're looking for anonymity. And there are reasons
mhm.
behind that. There's so many reasons for that. Nevada, not so much. Although it does have it is a good state to set up, but because of the gambling aspect of it, just the stigma of it, I tend not to form corporations there. Um, just because of that history, and I don't think that's very attractive to venture capitalists, you know? So, the states that I tend to like in general, um, Delaware certainly, but I love Texas. Florida's pretty good as well. Wyoming is also a good one.
Why is California such a dominant force still in the tech scene, even though there's all of this red tape? I always kind of feel like at the right towards the end of spring, there's the Texodus that I've heard people call it.
The
Everybody
Texans.
bails on California to get to Texas after tax season.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, that's another great question, and I think that California has so much just history, tech history, and there's so much of a footprint there that it's still very viable. That what's killing California are the high taxes, and that's why we're seeing the exodus. Um, but Newport, Orange County, they're still developing. Uh, they have a great number of facilities out there, so California is still the hub for innovation, but I think as uh, California becomes hindering doing business, you're starting to see alternative hubs develop, and we're starting to see that grow a lot in Texas and Florida. The cost of living is getting expensive, California, but I think so. So you're starting to see people migrate to other states, Florida and Texas, but the the foundation of innovation is just so strong in California that I don't see it leaving anytime soon. In fact, I think it's even getting stronger.
I think it's kind of it's this ebb and flow pattern, obviously during COVID. So I'm up in San Francisco, which is famously talked about as the city that got hit really hard by COVID.
Hmm.
And everybody left, massive, massive amounts of the population just left. Everybody was going to Phoenix, Nashville, Austin, Miami. And then the whole AI boom happened. And now, I mean, there are lines down the block just to go see an apartment in the city. It's everybody wants to come back.
Yeah.
And then, who's to say what'll happen with AI? Maybe this is a bubble and it'll pop and then everybody flees again and they'll come back for the next big thing.
Why did everybody leave during COVID just to get out of like an urban area?
Well, I think it was because the rent is so outrageous here, and it makes sense when you're working in office in downtown. But then it went to work from home, and people are going, "Why am I paying $4,500 a month for an apartment?"
I might as well move to Alabama or Arkansas and pay like 1/10 the price and make
Exactly,
10 times more money,
for some big
basically.
old mansion and a big yard when everybody's working at home and spending most of the day there anyways, instead of being cooped up in your tiny little broom closet apartment here.
I guess all the history is what you're saying, JJ, and the established infrastructure that even though there is the Texodus, as you said, it's a slow migration before that infrastructure gets built up and that history somewhere else. Because I know Houston is a hub for MedTech, starting to be a hub. I've also heard Miami's kind of a hub in Florida, and then recently Salt Lake City. So before it was just Boston and the Bay Area, but now we're seeing other areas starting to pop up from a MedTech perspective.
Yes, and Tex. You mentioned Texas, and Houston, Texas, is certainly developing as an innovation hub. Um, I meet with a number of individuals with the Texas Medical Center, and they're doing quite a number of work. And right now, they have a new initiative with the Netherlands to bridge innovation with them. So I think Texas or in Houston is certainly on the rise, and definitely worth keeping. If you're in the med tech industry, definitely keep an eye on the developments here because, yeah, we're on the rise, and people are looking to alternative. You know, these facilities are expensive. Med tech innovation is expensive, and there's a price to all of that. The cost of doing business in Texas and Florida is very different. But again, the way what I have seen is there's such strong history in California that I don't think it's ever gonna it may not ever leave. You know, the footprint is just so strong.
Yeah, I have a lot of f conservative friends that always talk they've never been to California, but they have strong opinions on California. They tell me everybody's leaving California. It's like a ghost town there. And then I go to California, the cars are crawling on the freeway. It's like, car to car to car. It's like fully traffic jammed. There's people all over the place. I'm like, I thought everyone left California. It seems like it's more crowded today than it was like last year when I was here.
I wish they would. The traffic here sucks.
Well, you said like even to get an apartment there, people are, waiting in line just to get an apartment, and people are paying over like the asking price. So it's definitely like the demand is outpacing the supply there, which is the converse of what a lot of people say, the inverse of what a lot of people say that have these high opinions about California and the exodus.
I think it's also that the supply is just really constrained. Like everybody's trying to move to San Francisco, but it's not a big city. It's 49 square miles. And it's an extremely, extremely dense city, but there's under a million people that live here. And so, given that this is the tech and AI capital of the world, people want to be here or nearby here. And so, even seeing places an hour and a half away from San Francisco, they are exploding with popularity while everyone's trying to get here. If you compare it to even New York, another place that is a tech scene, a big city, there's a lot of startup culture there. There are almost 10 million people in New York. There's a lot more space to fit everybody. And it's not to say that it's not extremely competitive to find a place to stay in New York, but I think San Francisco has a really unique problem, and the city's not growing fast enough, and there's nowhere for it to go. And so there's only
Hmm.
so many people that be here, and way more people want to be here than can.
And California is so beautiful, and the the venture, let's not forget about the venture capital that's out there in California. So much is still right there. So people want to be close to
Yeah,
their investors.
that's a good point.
It could work either way. I guess investors want to be close to their clients, and clients want to be close to their investors.
It sounds like we both have from a business perspective, a similar challenge where clients or prospects often come to us after they've made 7 steps. When ideally they'd come to us before they make the first step or right around the first step, and then we have to make some course correction. Is that typically what happens with you, JJ? Because I know you're advocating like to reverse engineer the strategy. If you want to go to the U.S. market, they should be talking to you earlier on. But I get the feeling from what you're saying that they often try to make a few steps, and then it sounds like there's some pretty severe consequences if they choose the wrong structure, the wrong, a lot of things that they could do without the right advice. Same thing from a cybersecurity perspective. People always, not always, typically come to us pretty late down the road after they made a bunch of design decisions, and it can be very costly to reverse all that.
And thank you for bringing that up. What you say is true. And it's true from a perspective of corporate formation, also from branding. And I'll touch on corporate formation first. Many times, someone will just open up an LLC thinking, oh, now I have market entry. And that's really not enough. And one of the things that, as an attorney, what my job is to do is to protect my client from liability. And that structure may not be enough. Just going to something like a legal Zoom and setting up an LLC, um, it just doesn't give the adequate protections that the client needs. And we're talking about companies, even the startups, are multi-million dollar companies. So my question is, how do we protect uh, the client's interest? So yes, we have to sometimes reverse engineer and restructure from an international corporate structuring perspective. Now, secondly, one of the issues that we deal with is rebranding. As you know, and as I know in the medtech industry, branding is extremely important, and entering and making sure that those brand names are available. So one of the things that we do is, if we're going to go with the route of, okay, we're going to set up some new entities, what what particular names are affiliated with those entities, the brand names, and let's make sure that those brand names are available to us in the United States, because just because you have a brand name in Europe or in the Middle East does not automatically grant you a trademark here in the United States, nor is your brand protected. So we want to vet the name, make sure it's available, and then as soon as possible, if we can clear the brand, then let's go ahead and file with the USPTO, and secure that. And then there are some things that we do until we get the registered mark registered, uh, to give notice to the public that, hey, our client is claiming this name exclusively as their own here in the United States.
We have a similar challenge because you mentioned LegalZoom. Uh, a lot of, not a lot, but quite a few prospects of ours can find like an automated pen testing service, kind of like the LegalZoom equivalent, but in cybersecurity to do some testing against their device for super cheap. It's super inadequate, it's super risky, and it's not going to give them the outcome they need to get cleared by the FDA. But they're still enticed to do that because it just, I don't know, it's like an educational challenge, like consumer education challenge that we have to say, like, you could spend the money on this, but ultimately you're not going to get the outcome you want, and you're going to have to come to someone like us anyway. So you're going to pay twice. And I imagine that's kind of what you're seeing. Someone went pretty far down the LegalZoom route and they hit a roadblock, and then they come to you. So all that time and effort they spent with, like, I'm not bashing LegalZoom, but I'm just
Hmm.
saying as example, all that time and effort they spent really amounted to a loss, really.
Yeah, and that's why I believe education is so important. I love that we're doing this podcast together, because I think this is how we get the word out and things to consider if you are that entrepreneur or startup that's trying to get market to the US. Like, could I go down to the legal rooms out and check boxes? Sure. But, you're not getting the proper legal guidance. Even if you want to leverage AI, well, fine. AI is a great tool, but it's not an legal expert, right? It gets a lot of things wrong. You can use these easy solutions, but you don't get the legal guidance or proper guidance that you need. If you don't know the consequences of, or how to adequately prepare for your cybersecurity, the risk that you're taking for your company, right? And from our side, like, you're taking a great risk on jeopardizing your startup and your venture capital if you're not setting up your company properly.
You mentioned the venture capital part, and I think that's a really, really important one, and I was kinda hoping you would touch on that, is, from our perspective, when you go through this automated penetration test, you go out and you pay, $8,000 to get it done. And you get a report, you submit it to the FDA, and they say, "No, that's unacceptable. You can't get cleared with an automated penetration test. Nobody accepts these. You have to do this manually so that you have quality coverage." Immediately, you're put into an interactive review with the FDA. Great. You've got to hold up to 180 days. 180 days that you did not expect to be burning your runway. Furthermore, now you have to go and do an actual real penetration test with real penetration testers who, guess what, are going to be better than this automated tool, and they're going to find more problems. The amount of times we've had a company come to us with a deficiency from the FDA, and they say, "Well, we just did a quick scan with an automated tool, and we thought that was enough." And we do the penetration test, and we say, "Look, there's significant product redesigns that need to be done. Likely going to have to add another 3 months onto this project because the device is fundamentally built in a way that the FDA would not consider secure." As opposed to starting this process while you're going through development, going, "Pause before we freeze anything and make any big decisions. Let's do this test while we still have some time left to go." And then they have a clean bill of health by the time the FDA comes up. So not even just from the risk to the product and the risk to the security and safety, which is of course a massive problem. Patients can get hurt, people can die when things go wrong here. But from the financial perspective, these startups are usually pretty thin with their budgets,
Hmm.
especially in the medtech space, with how expensive everything is. They calculate their runway pretty tight, and adding 6 months onto that is not something that anybody wants to have to deal with, and that can make this ship sink or swim pretty fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And you made me think of something, Trevor, that you could delay your market entry even more without an understanding of how business immigration works. Now I'm gonna add to this point
Right.
okay? So imagine you have a company, someone sets up use like an easy fix LLC, no legal guidance, right? Then they have an entity that's operating here. Now, someone tries to come over, a founder tries to come over into the US with a B1, B2 visa, and they're denied entry. Why? Because a B1, B2 visa is a tourist visa and with limited restrictions on how it can be used for business. Very limited use. Maybe for signing a contract, that's it. But if that founder or employee is is receiving monies in sense of salary, then the intent is completely wrong. They have to get an appropriate visa. So what happens? USC or this Customs and Border Patrol says, "Sorry, you're going to be deported." Right? And so that can delay not being able to negotiate with strategic partners coming to the United States and working with your strategic partners to build out your brand, to build out your company, to talk to venture capitalists can severely delay your market entry. And like I said, we're on government agency time when we're working with immigration. Remember, I like to talk about it at the beginning because I know everyone has a time clock or a timeline, and I don't like it to be interrupted for not having thought of business immigration at the beginning.
For not factoring in the the government bureaucracy timeline.
Exactly right. Yeah, Christian.
And that's a long timeline to factor in sometimes. The government's pace is not known to be snappy.
Yeah, exactly right. And now a lot of times we can ask for things like premium processing, which there's an upcharge for that. We sometimes can get an answer within 15 uh, business days. But that doesn't mean that we won't get what we call a request for evidence. Uh, to say we want more information about the beneficiary. We're not convinced, or we need more information to show and prove up that this person meets the qualifications. And so that could delay another 15 business working days, or maybe more.
Well, we recently filed our you helped us with our service marks, and I think you said it's already with the USPTO or whatever it is. You said it might take a year. Is that right?
Yep, it could take. It used to be more. They're doing a pretty good job of getting it done within a year. Yeah, yeah,
That's a long time to approve something by the government.
yeah,
A lot of things change within a year. We're not like in the 1920s anymore.
What if we're even in the same industry at that point?
Right. It's crazy,
yeah.
yeah.
Again, it just goes back to government bureaucracy, you know. But I will share that USPTO is one of the better of the agencies, and they really have. I mean, during COVID, we were looking at easily 18 months to process a trademark. Now,
Oh, wow.
um, it's it's probably just a little under 12 months.
So this is a little bit of a pivot, but right after we did that filing, so I'm listed as the contact point for these service mark filings. And right after that, I started getting phone calls left and right from
Did
people
you?
saying, yeah, oh, saying there are major problems with your filing. We're going to cancel this. And at first
The
I was just like,
scam.
oh,
It's all
whoa,
scam, isn't it?
the scams. Yeah, 100%. But, we're in the cybersecurity space. I know what a scam sounds like. I know what a scam looks like. And
Right.
so every time, you get these from your bank, I go, uh huh, sure, hang up, call the bank. Is there actually a problem? No. So I do this. I hang up, I call the USPTO. After like the third one of these, I go, okay, I've had three people call me saying there's a problem. Is there really a problem? No, 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 you're fine. But this does happen all the time. This is the number we will call you from.
Yeah.
But it was interesting. I mean, immediately we got the email from you that everything had been filed, and my phone just lit up.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. I forgot we put you as the contact. See, that's funny. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, Trevor. That's the one of the unfortunate situations of having our information available on a public database, and they're just scraping, and they're looking at who filed today and making sending out these scam emails, and that's exactly what they are. They're scam emails. Um, and ever, of course, if you're ever in doubt, just feel free to reach out to us. But if it's not coming from us, like we're always monitoring our marks, right? So we'll be telling
Right.
you if it's not coming from us, I wouldn't trust it.
What are they trying to scam us for? Like to pay extra money to them to verify something or to check something because it wasn't done right? Is that the whole ploy?
Yeah, the it's just ways of. I mean, they could come up with almost anything. It wasn't done right, or someone else. The one that's very popular is someone else is using your mark, and right now I have them uh, on hold, and if you want, I can clear up this matter for you.
I got one of those.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, that's a very popular one.
I'm glad you didn't fall for it, Trevor.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, obviously we get all sorts of those, but it does catch you for a minute. And being in the cybersecurity space, I feel like you're hyper vigilant to this kind of thing. I get calls all the time. I won't. I will. I'll answer 1 out of every 10 phone calls that I get, just because I don't trust anything that's coming in.
Yeah,
But when you answer, they know my name, they know where I live, they know where I work, they know what these marks were about, they know when they were filed, they know all this information.
yeah,
And they
Yeah, we had
say
to
all
put
that,
all that on the application, and it's public
it's
now, huh?
all on the application. And they say that, and they're like, yeah, so this is our verification proving we're the PTO, blah, blah, blah. Uh-huh, good one. Anyways, click. And then, give actual PTO a call. But if I could totally see, if you're not prepared for this, if you're not used to the legal system in the US, doing this for the first time, 100%, they know all this. How would you know that's public information?
Yeah,
yeah.
and some of these companies trying to establish over here are probably not used to all these kind of scams we have over here, depending on what country they're coming from, I imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's a good point.
the thing about foreign nationals and foreign companies, for them to register marks, they have to use a U.S. attorney. There's no way around that. So uh, I'm glad you brought up that point, because that's something I think we need to keep making our clients aware that there's scammers out there, and don't fall for it. If it's not coming from your attorney, then it's a scam.
Yeah, the scams never seem to cease. I was talking to someone, I was a guest on their podcast, and we had to cut it short because they got a text from their elderly mother that just fell for a scam and somehow transferred $15,000 to somebody that they shouldn't have.
Oh,
Yeah. So it still happens. I thought we had kind of raised the awareness enough on these things where people weren't still falling for it, but even my mother-in-law fell for one of these recently, and we had to reset all of her credit. I don't know. Maybe the scammers are getting better, and or people just aren't getting educated enough on it still. In our industry, we hear about it so much. We're like,
Mhm.
whatever. We know about all the scams. Come on,
Yeah.
maybe we're just overly sensitive to it.
Well, yeah, well, what concerns me, guys, is the, the AIs are just getting avatars are getting so good, and the voice are getting so good, that you think you're actually talking to a person. So what if the situation was that my mother received a call from me saying, "Hey, mom, can you transfer to me this amount of money as I'm in this kind of a situation?" Like, and there goes $15,000, right? So, I'm curious how.
It should only come from if she received a call from you. It should come from your cell phone, though, not some other phone number.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then there should be a verification step in there, right? And then this
Mhm.
is part of like,
No, no,
I
great,
mean, it's hard to
great.
like educate our family members on this,
Yeah,
but there should be a two-step verification, right?
yeah,
Like if JJ supposedly calls, me as your mom asking for $15,000, I would call your actual number back and say, dude, did you really ask for $15,000?
yeah,
well,
yeah,
I'll give you an example. And this is something that, I've talked about with my family. I travel a lot and to all sorts of different places. And, in 2 weeks, I'm going to be heading to China for a while. And usually I'm not that easy to get a hold of while I'm there. I got a scam call from myself once. It was my voice on the other end, like an AI generated call. It was just kind of saying a bunch of random stuff, but 100% unmistakable. It was me. Freaked me
yeah,
out. And imagine if it's middle of the day here. It's like 3 in the morning in China. I'm asleep. I'm not going to answer my phone if somebody calls me. And my mom gets a call saying, "Hey, it's me. I'm in prison in Shanghai. I need $15,000 to make bail." What is her reaction going to be? Hang up and call me. I don't answer on my cell phone. And then she tries that number back. Okay, what do I do?
yeah.
You go into fight or flight at that point.
I would say, why are you in prison, Trevor? What did you do? I would ask a few questions first.
Yeah, hear how reasonable it is. See what are the likely things that would get Trevor into prison and see if it fits the list.
I would say I know a little bit about Trevor. Let me see what he likely could or would have done or would not have done to see how plausible this story is.
Stranger things would have happened for sure, but yeah.
I don't ever answer my cell phone unless it's Melissa that calls or
Yeah.
somebody I know, but I usually never answer it. But if I wonder if I answer some of these calls, if it would actually be a voice, someone like basically using my voice. I don't know. We've done enough podcasts where my voice is out there for pretty much probably a big enough dictionary of words where they could craft it really well, just like yours, Trevor. I don't know. Maybe that's the thing is like we put our voice out there so much that you and I are easier to clone from an AI perspective.
You can clone a voice with 30 to 60 seconds of speech.
Yeah, I
And
thought it was like pretty short, right?
there are probably hundreds of hours of our voices out there. It would be beyond easy to duplicate us. We could probably duplicate the way that we look now, even with AI.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what's scary.
So how do we educate somebody on the real us versus the fake us?
Hmm.
Like we have a secret word that only we know?
Well, then we would publicly say the secret word in these podcasts,
Right.
and the AI would learn it.
Wait, can I ask you guys a question? I'm fascinated by what y'all do, and the importance of cybersecurity with medtech devices. Christian, we and I talked briefly about this, but how critically important now cybersecurity is with medical devices. I mean, I was just imagining in sharing our conversation that, could you artificially trigger someone's heart attack if you could get access to their Bluetooth signal? I mean, that's inc that just blew my mind, and so, if y'all could I would love to hear y'all's thoughts, on that and why cybersecurity is so important to medtech.
Yeah, that's a good point. We actually sponsor this program called Code Blue Chart
Mhm.
that catalogs all the real findings with medical device cybersecurity. And the one you're talking about, a researcher named Barnaby Jack was supposed to present his finding where he could prove that he could, from 50 feet away, wirelessly connect to a defibrillator and shock people to death at scale.
Yeah.
And mysteriously, right before his talk to show how he was going to do this, he OD'd on cocaine and a few other things. So there's a little controversy about that, but yeah, these are things that are real. And the challenge is people think, well, it's never happened, so why should we care about it? But that website I talked about shows at least 7 deaths that have been caused by medical devices, and there's more than that. I feel like, but they've been downplayed because of a liability perspective, where they're not attributing it to a cyber event against a medical device.
And granted, attribution is really hard. Like, if you picture the most
It
common
is.
scenario for healthcare environments is ransomware. And, you know, death rates for everything in hospitals spike during ransomware attacks. And that is attributed to the loss of availability of critical care systems. But you can say, well, these are not specifically the ones with the vulnerability. It was some second, third, fourth order attack from a VPN gateway with the vulnerability. And so people won't want to attribute it directly to the device itself, even though it's compromised by this same problem. And that's part of what the regulators are trying to lean into is this scenario is very real and it happens. And both can be true. You can hack directly into the device, or the device can just be an unfortunate victim of this connected world that we live in. And if you hack into anything in that network, the consequences can be absolutely devastating.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, I like a scenario I like to go over. Like, imagine you have a heart attack, or someone you know has a heart attack. They're in an ambulance. They get taken to a hospital, and the hospital has a ransomware attack. Why you have a heart attack every like second matters, right? But if they can't be ingested or intaked into that hospital because of the ransomware is affecting the workflow and slowing everything down, the likelihood of that person dying from that heart attack greatly increases. And people don't like to think about it that way from a ransomware attack. We kind of dismiss it, but that's why I say I think these numbers are a lot higher than they're advertised or officially stated as.
Amazing. I mean, it just seems like something out of a movie, but this is our reality.
Well, we're coming up on time here, so I'd like to go around the room and ask for some key takeaways or uh, last minute words of wisdom or departing words of wisdom. I shouldn't say last minute. It sounds like we're we're about to die or something. Departing words of wisdom. Maybe there's a better phrase. I need to come up with a better phrase.
Some
So I'll
closing
start with
thoughts.
closing thoughts. There you go. Closing thoughts. So we said closing thoughts?
Sure.
Yeah.
Works for me.
Start with you, Trevor. You can give us the closing thoughts or key takeaways. Then I'll go over to you, JJ.
You know, I'm gonna go in a little bit of a different direction and go back to the start of what we talked about. Get out in nature and get down to the ocean. If you're near the ocean, right right as soon as this day wraps up, heading down to Monterey to go see it's baby sea otter season, and so I'm thinking about nature and I'm thinking about ocean for the weekend, and I think that's a good way to reset after a long week.
Is that the key takeaway?
That's my key takeaway.
Fair enough. All right. I like it.
I like it, Trevor.
All
I
right.
like it
What
too,
about you,
Trevor.
JJ?
Well, first I want to say thank you, Christian and Trevor, for having me on your podcast. One of the things I really enjoy is talking about what we do at Amell Law and educating our prospective clients and the MedTech community. I think it's critical for us to keep this dialogue going. Key takeaway I would say is that align yourself if you're entering the U.S. market, align yourself with an appropriate partner, and you want to be considering both your legal and your fiscal responsibilities, making sure those issues are addressed. Because you don't want surprises from the IRS or from a court saying you're non-compliant. So just making sure you are aligned with an appropriate strategic partner, as well as talking about things from the get-go on your market entry, considering your corporate structure. What does that entail? Considering your goals, you want to consider your goals. You want to build an appropriate structure. One, two, business immigration should be considered at the forefront. Discuss. Remember, the timeline is very different from what your timeline is versus that of the government. And three, protecting your brand is critical to an appropriate market entry. And I'll leave it with that. And thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thanks for being a guest, JJ, and helping educate the community on some of the legal challenges in MedTech. Sounds like there's a lot more than I even thought of. I would say my key takeaway, I'm going to lean into what Trevor said, because I feel like 16 hours a day I'm at the computer, and my only nature is talking to AI these days, which is not really nature. So I recently rewatched Point Break with Melissa because she never saw it, and
Great movie.
they're always talking about the ocean, like surfing is the source, dude. And they're talking about the source energy, and it's about like Bodhi and the spirituality of the ocean and nature. And I was like, yeah, I used to be more aligned with that, but I've somehow got a little disconnected because I've been so focused on producing things on the computer. So yeah, I think stepping away and zooming out and just reconnecting with nature is important. Yeah, so I would agree with that.
Can't argue with
Cool.
that.
Well, thanks everyone for tuning in to the Med Device Cyber Podcast. We hope you found value in this episode. And if you've been in front of the computer too long, maybe you should step out and check out nature for a little bit. And if you haven't watched Point Break, it's my favorite movie, the original. Check that one out as well. It's got Keanu Reeves in it.
The remake's not bad either, though.
The remake's okay, yeah, but the original's better. Yeah. Have you seen the original too?
Oh yeah, I love that movie. It's one of my
the
favorites.
original is the best.
I went to Bell's Beach when I was in Australia and got a picture by Bell's Beach where the final scene from Point Break is at. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, JJ, again for being a guest, and thanks everyone for tuning in.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.